Yeah, Jesus, we just dedicate this space to you. Father, I just say that this house is yours. I just say that this home is yours, that this church home belongs to you, Jesus. And so, Father, I just thank you for the privilege and the joy that it is to get to listen and hear your word. And so, Father, as your children right now, in the name of Jesus, I just ask that you would call our spirits to attention so that we might hear the good news of the gospel this morning, that we might hear the good news of your character, the promises about who you are. Would you speak encouragement to our hearts, to our souls, to our minds? And we just love you, Jesus. We just love you so much. And so, Father, I thank you just for the joy that it is to sit in your presence this morning. Your most beautiful name, God. Amen. Amen. So as Todd mentioned, we are in the third installment of a 4-part mini-series that has been interwoven into our Sunday teachings that focuses specifically on missions. Today, our topic is Harvest Faithfully. And that means that today we're going to talk about food. Not just because I am a highly food-motivated individual, but because I believe it's an essential need to a community's well-being and development. I got to live in Haiti for a year after I graduated from college, and today we're going to see some images sprinkled throughout today's teaching, and those are actually images that I got to take while I was working with an NGO. And while working with this NGO, I saw firsthand just how devastating not having enough food could be. The NGO that I worked with at the time had a better farming techniques program, meaning that national staff, so local Haitians, would partner with communities and townships and community leaders around Haiti, and they would go in and they would equip these farmers with better farming techniques or teach them from scratch what it means to harvest a plot of land. I got to watch individuals' lives transform because they learned how to plant seeds, water those seeds, and tend to the soil so that they could yield a fruitful harvest season after season after season. I got to learn 3 things watching these farmers in action, and that is going to be where we camp and what we talk through today. The first being that we should be faithful with what we are given or entrusted. Harvest is an entire process, not just an isolated portion of a process. And 3, if we do not meet the practical needs of a community, we won't have the opportunity to speak to their spiritual ones. Going to go ahead and read those one more time. We are to be faithful to what we are given or entrusted. The harvest is an entire process, not just part of a process. And the last point, if we do not meet the practical needs of a community, we won't have the opportunity to speak to their spiritual needs. Let's dive in. The first point, be faithful with what you have been given or entrusted. Each plot of land with the farmers that we got to visit, it all started with 5 to 10 small seeds. It was in being faithful to whatever had been first placed in front of them that we got to see it multiply. Go ahead and flip to Matthew 25 with me if you have your Bibles with you. I'm also going to have these slides behind me on the screen that you can follow along with. In this parable, Jesus is sharing with his disciples about a story about 3 servants. Each servant was asked to hold on to a certain amount of money while their master was away. Go ahead and flip to verse 14, Matthew 25. And they'll be behind me as well on the screen. Matthew 25:14. Again, the kingdom of heaven can be illustrated by the story of a man going on a long trip. He called together his servants and entrusted his money to them while he was gone. He gave 5 bags of silver to one, 2 bags of silver to another, and 1 bag of silver to the last, dividing it in proportion to their abilities. And then he left on his trip. The servant who received 5 bags of silver began to invest the money and earn 5 more. The servant with 2 bags of silver also went to work and earned 2 more. But the servant who received 1 bag of silver dug a hole in the ground and hid the master's money. Verse 19, after a long time, their master returned from his trip and called them to give an account of how they had used his money. The servant to whom he had entrusted 5 bags of silver came forward with 5 more and said, Master, you gave me 5 bags of silver to invest, and I have earned 5 more. The master was full of praise. Well done, my good and faithful servant. You have been faithful in handling this small amount, so now I will give you many more responsibilities. Let's celebrate together. The servant who had received the 2 bags of silver came forward and said, Master, you gave me 2 bags of silver to invest, and I have earned 2 more. And the master said, well done, my good and faithful servant. You have been faithful in handling this small amount, so now I will give you many more responsibilities. Let's celebrate together. Raise your hand if you're familiar with this parable. Great. That is stellar. So you know how the third servant responds. We get to the final servant, and he reveals that he didn't invest the money anywhere. He reveals that he placed that money in the ground. He buried it because he was concerned with how the master would respond if he didn't handle it properly. The master then responds by giving that 1 bag of silver that he entrusted with that servant to the servant who doubled his bags of silver from 5 to 10. And he says, to those who use well what they are given, even more will be given, and they will have an abundance. But from those who do nothing, even what little they have will be taken away. Verse 29. From the master's perspective, you see, it wasn't really about the money at all or how much he gave each of his servants. It was all about the servant's response. Does that make sense? The farmer whose plots of crops were the biggest, they grew to that point. They didn't start there. It was a process. It took time and a lot of care and tending to soil seeds and watering those seeds. They were faithful to the first however many seeds they were given by the program managers. And then they multiplied season after season. And the amount of fruits or vegetables they'd eventually get to pick also multiplied. The most successful farmers were faithful to the entire growth process, which brings us to my second point. Harvest is a process, not just part of a process. And it's very important, whether it be in spiritual harvest or practical harvest, that we tend to the entire piece. Seeds need a lot of TLC. Say to yourself, I'm a seed. I'm a seed. And we need a lot of tender love and care before we can bear fruit ourselves. Getting to collect the fruits of our labor is always rewarding. Don't get me wrong. I love getting to go pick nectarines in late August. They're my favorite fruit. But paying attention to the whole harvesting process promises that there will actually be fruit to be harvested. Faithfully tending to the soil, then planting seeds, then watering them regularly, and scaring away any birds that are trying to uproot all the hard work that you're doing. These are all things, all steps that help ensure fresh fruits and vegetables for the picking. Everyone meet David. Love him. This is David. He was one of our farmers in Haiti. And this farmer, the eggplants that you see in his hands, he actually turned around, and as we were leaving, I was hopping in the vehicle, and he goes, wait, in Creole, and he dumps all of these eggplants in my arms. It's pretty humbling to receive an armful of food from someone who previously wasn't sure when he would get his last meal, especially since I knew I would have a warm meal waiting for me back at our compound. What stood out to me about David, other than his smile and the joy that he clearly took in his work, was the ownership. When we went to his plot of land, it was always my favorite to visit because it was the biggest. So to me, that said, he gave it a lot of time, a lot of care, a lot of tedious investment to yield the fruit behind me. David owned the entire harvest process. Discovering he could provide for himself and his family unlocked hope. Hope is the key that expands our perspective from the right now to what is yet to come. I'm going to say that one more time. Hope is the key that expands our perspective from the right now to what is yet to come. For David, this meant having access to food for weeks and months at a time instead of looking at it in 24-hour increments. With their immediate needs being met, they were then empowered to dream about the future, which led some to create their own small businesses. We saw a lot of these farmers in markets around town selling what they had worked so hard to cultivate. Because these practical needs were met, they could begin to dream about their future, and since help came to them from a faith-based NGO, when they began to have questions about, why are you doing this? Who sent you here? We could very quickly say because of the love of Jesus. Beginning discipleship in these communities was an easy next step for whoever wanted a relationship with Jesus. Which brings me to my final point. If we do not meet the practical needs of a community, we will not have the opportunity to speak to the spiritual ones. Behind me is a photo of a town named Trouin, but it's spelled T-R-O-U-I-N. And the drive into Trouin was one of my favorite places in all the world. Earlier this week, actually, I was doing some reflecting and soul work with our worship pastor, Andrea, and she asked me to think of a place where I felt completely safe. And I thought of this. This was the image that came to mind. So I got to share a little bit on what it means to address food insecurity, or redefined food insecurity, meaning we're not sure when we're going to get our next meal, what that looks like globally. But let's go ahead and flip that. What does that look like locally? What does that look like in our immediate context of Woodinville, Washington? I asked myself just an honest question. How is Woodinville Alliance meeting the needs of hunger in our own community? In addition to the Roadrunner Pantry, my mind immediately went to the work of the Woodinville Food Bank and Storehouse. For the majority of this congregation, wondering where our next meal will come from is not a question that we need to ask ourselves. However, there are others in and around Woodinville that are asking themselves that question. I'd say most of us in this congregation, whenever we experience being hangry, we also know how it's going to be solved or when it will be solved. We can easily get to the McDonald's across the street or pop into a gas station and grab a bag of chips. But we'll know when our next meal will arrive or where we can get a snack pretty quickly. So to take a closer look at what food insecurity in Woodinville looks like, I'm going to invite some friends up. Josie, Mark, and Robin, go ahead and join me. Come on forward. Great. A round of applause for these friends. Yes. So if you do not know, Josie is the director of the food bank which is like kitty corner to here at Woodinville Community Church. And then Robin and Mark are two of her volunteer leads that assist at the food bank regularly. So Mark and Robin are two of her volunteers, and they help support her during outreach opportunities on Tuesday nights. And so Josie, I'm going to have you just go ahead and share a little bit more about the food bank, the work that you do locally, and who your usual clients are. Thanks.
Let's talk about food insecurity. Like she said, I'm the director of the food bank, but there are 150 volunteers right now that are working with us, and I'm basically just the mom. I'm their mom. I just put out fires. They're pretty capable. The Woodinville Food Bank is supported by 9 churches, 9 partner churches. I think that we have a slide for that. Woodinville Alliance is one of them. Don't count them because I'm not sure if it's really 9. Might be 10. It's been pretty sweet seeing 9 churches come together locally and feed the community and not have it be just one church or just one pet project. We also have businesses that come alongside us. Boar's Head is a very important one. We usually, though, buy a lot of our food, so these are things that are donated. Right now, we are serving Woodinville, Redmond, and Kirkland, along with our homeless neighbors, and we're seeing 60 clients a week, 60 households a week. That made up 2,600 cars were filled last year. Some only come 1 or 2 times, it's just a transition thing, and some have come every week since we started in 2011, I think. Once a client comes in consistently, we don't let them just come in and give them food without leaving them there. We sit down with them one-on-one and kind of see what's going on with the rest of their situation, and we're able to kind of problem solve. We serve fresh produce, meat, dairy, bread, non-perishables, and toiletries. And everything is pretty fresh. We don't do gleaning. It's really important to our board that we offer really high quality things, because when you're coming into a food bank in this area, it's different. There's a lot of shame that comes in, and we want to make sure that everybody knows exactly what they're getting, that it's pretty consistent, and it's consistent quality. So we spend a lot of money on food, which is a good thing to spend money on. And I have a picture of the client room. We don't do pictures of clients, so this is all you get. I wish that we could send a whole video and everything, but you can see. This is just one shelf. It's pretty expanded. And a typical client, single parents, widows, widowers, people who recently lost a job, people dealing with health issues, medical expenses, people waiting for social services to go through. I did some number crunching, and I think about 9% of our clients are homeless, and 35% of our clients are 60 and over. And usually the clients who are seniors, it's their first time coming. And the demographic is they've supported a food bank their whole life, and now they need to come to a food bank for the first time. Our clients have a lot of other things going on besides food insecurity, and it's helpful when they get food and they know that they don't have to worry about that part. It kind of frees them up to be able to think about other things. If someone isn't able to afford a basic need like food, what happens if their kid is addicted to something? They don't have money for that. Or what happens if they get hurt? A lot of our clients have dental issues, and they haven't addressed them because food is the most important thing that they're dealing with right then, or housing. So we're able to give them resources. Kind of frees them up. And then the element of prayer is a big one. We are a Christian organization, obviously, and we offer prayer to every one of our clients when they come in. A lot of times they say that they're good, that that's not what they need, and then a lot of times it's the last minute, or it's the last resort request. It's pretty sweet. One of my volunteers just said something that I haven't been able to shake, and it's, what did he say? The testimony of the unbeliever is an astonishing thing. When somebody comes back and says, I was healed from something that you prayed for me, and I wasn't believing that it was going to work. When I hear it wouldn't hurt when I offer prayer to somebody, I know that that prayer is going to have a higher chance of being answered than somebody who's already a believer. So how to help? I don't, do you guys need help on your team? I didn't ask you. If you would like to help, good to know, come over to either Robin or Mark. You need to be 16. You do the second and third Tuesdays. You need to be 16. You need to be able to pray for somebody out loud without fear. And you need to be able to have, push a cart up a ramp. You gotta have a little bit of muscles. And then if that's not your jam, we have blue bags next to the Welcome Center. It's the Let's Feed Some People campaign. And there are some loose rules around them or guidelines, but you just take the bag, you fill it up, you bring it back, put it over there, and that helps feed our people. And then you can always give me money. I would appreciate that. You can just directly give me money, or you can go on our website. And then I was thinking as I was sitting, if anyone here needs food, if there's some food insecurity going on in your life, please talk to me. If you can't find out on the website, I can kind of guide you through that. And don't be afraid and don't be worried. We'll take care of you. And it'll feel safe. Okay? Who's going next?
I guess I'm just supposed to, give a little bit of what the experience is volunteering for the food with the food bank, and I have to say that it is very rewarding and been a great blessing to me. Not only has God used it to grow me in my faith and my walk, but it has had challenges. But the experience of being able to move outside of your own little circle and encounter people that are not part of your social economic set is, one, it's very eye-opening. We live in a very wealthy community, and often those who are not as well off, we don't see them. The funny thing is now, I see clients in the grocery store. My eyes have been opened as to the extent of the food insecurity in our community. And other ways in which we are blessed in that is being able to share the love of Christ in very tangible ways to people. And that is so true about what Alissa said about meeting needs, giving you the opportunity to actually share that love of Christ in a tangible way that speaks to them. I don't know, it just is super rewarding. It's something that as a younger person, non-believer, I had people come to my door and try to evangelize me, and yet there was a barrier because they didn't see me. They saw me as like a sale to make. But by seeing our clients, getting to know them by name from week to week, month to month, to be able to say, hey, we were praying about your sister, how is she doing? Or a particular need, they feel seen. And it gives us that opportunity to really share that love of Jesus in a way that they understand. So.
Hi, I'm Mark. I've been involved in the food bank. I was trying to figure out when I started. It was about 2014. And for a number of those years, I was on the board, and then I gave that up. But I've been a volunteer since then, and I was probably involved 3 years before I was asked to share the leadership with Mila Chicken, and we've done that the last 6 or 8 years or whatever. And it is such a joy be a part of this ministry, to be the hands and feet of Jesus in the midst of our community, to care for those that have trouble caring for themselves. It's so fun to see the team that comes each week and pray together, and to be able to look at each person as a person, to see each person there as who they are and love them for who they are and the son and daughter of Christ. After we became have our own week, Robin started joining us, and then she was involved for 2 or 3 years on our team, and then another spot opened up, and then she took over another week. So that's why we have the second and third Tuesdays of the month to care for our community, or second or third Tuesday. So I don't know, we've got Rick and Stephanie back here who are a part of our team. About half our team now is from our church, and half the team came from other churches, and so we're somewhat ecumenical. A few people on our team aren't involved in a church at this point, but love Jesus, and that's kind of their way to give. So, yeah, I would love to talk to anyone who'd be interested in volunteering. We seem to be 1 or 2 people short most every month, so we're able to do it, and it's great. It's just nice. It's nice to not be hurried when you're at the food bank, to have time for people, for people not to feel like they have to wait a long time to get served, and then also to have to hurry through the food bank, because each person gets to pick their own food there. We have fresh produce, we have meat choices, we have dairy, we have cheese, we've got butter, we've got milk, we've got some baby supplies. I mean, we really do operate a really cool place, and I think people enjoy coming over and over again. So anyway, come talk to me if you have any questions, or talk to Robin. Thanks so much.
Great. Thanks, you guys. Go ahead and take a seat. I'm just so grateful for the work that these guys are doing in our community. I had the privilege of getting to assist them around Christmas time, where they did these ham distributions. And it was really cool to watch these families come in that I think typically anticipate, deli meat, and to see them provided not with just bare minimum, with abundance. I was like, that is the heart of Jesus. Like, that is absolutely beautiful. So thank you so much for doing that. And I could nerd out on how food is an essential part of breaking the poverty cycle. I love having that conversation. If you would like to have that conversation, come find me. Let's do coffee. We'll have that conversation anytime you want, because it helps people get out of poverty. This is literally a direct intervention of the poverty cycle in the life of a person. And so that's why it's so important. And as these people are caring for hungry families in our community, and as the CNMA is caring for hungry people globally, that brings us to us. Jesus, what does this all mean for me? So let's go ahead and place our 3 points for today. I decided to change our 3 points from today and then turn them into response and reflection. So just for a quick review, our 3 points from today were: be faithful to what we are given, as reflected in Matthew 25. Point 2, harvest is an entire process, not just part of a process, not just an isolated element. And 3, if we do not meet the practical needs of a community, we won't have the opportunity to speak to their spiritual ones. So now let's turn these into questions. Question 1, how can I be faithful with God, with what God has entrusted me? I think we've all been entrusted something a little bit different. And so this answer might look a little bit different. And that's exactly as it's intended to. So as you're sitting in your seat, and I'm going to go ahead and invite the worship team back up to get ready to wrap up our final song. Go ahead and come up, worship team. Just ask yourself, even now in your seat, in your own heart quietly, how can I be faithful with what God has entrusted me? And question number 2, what part of harvest is my soul in? Are there seeds being planted of a new season? Am I experiencing drought? Does my soul need to be watered? Do I need to sit in the presence of Jesus and be refreshed anew? Or am I in a season of bearing fruit? Is this a season where you are yelling from the rooftops the victories, the healing, the freedom that you have experienced in your own heart, in your own life? And then our final question, where do I need to experience hope that harvest is possible? I had a friend reach out asking for prayer for her parents that aren't saved this week. And it prompted in me, like, I need to have hope and expectation for that, where I have lost hope that that's possible. And so as the worship team begins to play, just go ahead and take a few minutes to reflect over these questions.